Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Lee with your favorite podcast with liveallgood.com. I just want to know, number one, how's everybody dealing with the COVID-19 quarantine? How are you dealing with your family dynamic? That's important. Hopefully, this guest that we have coming on today, we have some tips that can help you and your children kind of deal with stress and manage it in a positive way. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back with Amanda Burris. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We are here with our guest, Amanda Burris. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, doing good. The sun is out. It's getting warmer, so that helps with feeling better a little bit.
Absolutely.
Sure, sure. So, what we want to talk about today, I mentioned this in the intro, is we just want to talk about how to manage stress for adults, for families, and for kids. Um, and that's probably really important, especially now during quarantine and during a pandemic. But obviously, these tips can be used anytime. So, but stress is manageable. Would you agree with that? Stress is manageable.
Absolutely. I mean, stress is a biological response, but it doesn't really serve us in the way that, it was created to.
Hmm.
It used to keep us safe from things in the wild, but it doesn't
Yes.
serve us in that way.
Right.
And so prolonged stress can do some pretty detrimental things to our bodies.
Mm.
So it's really important to manage it.
Sure. Okay. So before we jump into that, do you mind giving us like a brief what's your story? What's your background? Give us a brief history.
Sure. So I'm a licensed social worker,
Hmm.
and I currently work as a school social worker. Prior to working in a school, I worked in the community in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I worked with some kids who had kind of the really high mental health needs.
Sure.
And I was going in their homes and in their schools. And so I really love this community, and
Hmm.
I really love working with kids and families. It's my passion.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you. And thank you for the work that you do at the school you're at right now.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, and I really believe that, a lot of times I see that adults think that kids don't have stress. And that's such the opposite, They
Absolutely.
just don't know how to express it like we do,
Hmm.
or don't have the freedom to do that. So yeah, your work is really important. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
So yeah, I guess we can jump right in. Let's dive right in. So how do you want to start with any tips that you have for families? What would you say?
Well, I think in the midst of everything that's going on, it's
Mm,
really important to understand that mental health needs to be a priority. Honestly, the top
mm,
priority.
sure.
I'm sure there are parents who are really concerned about their children continuing to learn.
Hmm.
Um, and that is important, but our children are not going to learn if they are feeling stressed and
Hmm.
anxious, because the child brain, when it's distressed, the part of the brain that actually learns isn't even online and isn't functioning correctly. So you have to
Mm,
make sure
okay.
they're regulated before they can even learn. Uh,
Gotcha. So just to make sure I understand, what you're saying is that yeah, if they are in a stress response,
mhm.
whatever that is for the child, there's really the other parts of the brain to learn are kind of shut down.
Absolutely, yes. The
Okay.
part of our brain that responds during stressful times, our stress
Hmm.
response is often freeze, flight, or fight. And
Correct.
And
Correct.
so when we're in that state, our logical and problem solving parts of our brain are just not working. Um,
Okay.
Yeah, and that kind of stress can have lifelong impacts. And so, 10
Mm,
years from now, you might look back and think, man, my kid got a little behind
mhm,
academically, but they can always catch up on that. Whereas if you
mm,
didn't necessarily do the work to help them learn to manage their emotion and their stress, like that's something that might stick with them longer.
okay. So, just to touch on that, like you're saying about health benefits or detracting from your health, actually,
Hmm.
uh, that can actually lead to some lifestyle health problems, would you say, as you're older?
I think so, for sure. If a child's feeling, distressed and anxious, that can lead to self-esteem issues,
Hmm.
lifelong depression.
Hmm.
And so it's important for parents to understand that just like any other skill you teach, you teach your kids how
Sure.
to ride a bike, you teach them to read. It's the same with
Mm.
teaching them how to manage their emotion and manage their stress. We don't just come out
Mm.
into the world understanding how to do that. And so it's really important to model that
Sure.
and teach them. It's
We
a
all
skill to
do.
learn.
We all,
Hmm.
we all come out and understand that. Absolutely. Right away.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah, no, I understand that. That's a good. Um, so then let me ask you this, and as a parent myself, and this probably really applies right now.
Hmm.
If what would be like the first thing to do in trying to help your child um, deal with their feelings of anxiety right now with the unknown?
Hmm.
How would you start that, especially if I don't know how I feel?
Right.
What would you say to that?
As a parent, I think the first step is definitely to check in on yourself. Like you said, if you're feeling your own anxiety, if you're not able to manage that for yourself, you're going to have trouble managing it for your child. So
Sure,
taking the time to do
sure.
it, step aside, take some deep breaths, maybe write down how you're
Hmm.
feeling, challenge some of those negative thoughts you're having, whatever you need to
Hmm.
do to manage it for yourself. And then you
Hmm.
really want to have your child use emotion language. You want to encourage them to express how they're feeling. And if they don't know, you could teach them the different emotion words and
Hmm.
make it very common in your home to talk about emotions every day. Mm-hmm.
Sure, sure. What if no, can you give an example of some emotion language? I mean, I understand what you mean, but just for our listeners, what's an example of using emotion
Yeah.
language?
So I think a lot of times we limit ourselves to saying, oh, I feel good, I feel bad. But there's a lot of
Mm,
words that we could teach our children
mm-hmm,
to use. Like, do they feel lonely
mm,
or disappointed? Or
mm,
maybe they're feeling hopeful that day that things will get better,
mm.
cautious.
Okay,
Um, there's
nice.
just so many words out there that can really help you be more precise in how you're feeling. And the more precise our children are feeling, or the more precise they are with their words, the better we can help them.
I got you. So yes, really helping them to be more
Hmm.
descriptive in what they're feeling and how they're feeling, even if so. Um, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. What if the your child says, "Well, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to talk about
Hmm.
it." How can we help them begin to use the emotion language, become more descriptive?
Well, we can model it ourselves, so we can use the words for how we feel in front
Mm-hmm.
of them. We can also name it for them. Say, it seems like you're feeling a little frustrated. I know you don't want to share how you feel right now, but for me, from my point of view, it looks like you're feeling a little upset. So we can name it for them. We can also
Mm-hmm.
use tools such as emotion charts where you have pictures of different faces
Mm.
and ask them to just point to how they're feeling if they're not ready to talk about it out loud.
Okay. Would you also agree or say a good idea is like if you don't have an emotion chart, something
Hmm.
like that, especially, and this might work for younger kids, having them draw how they feel, like draw a picture of how they feel.
Absolutely, yes. If that's like a
Hmm.
relaxing activity for them, that can be really great.
Hmm. Okay. Good, 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 good. So then moving on, how would you, we talked a little bit, we mentioned younger kids. How would you, what kind of information or tips can you give for a family that has multiple age
Mm-hmm.
ranges where you have to kind of say you have a teenager, say you have a tween, and then a toddler?
Mm-hmm.
What can you kind of uh, manage that roller
Yeah.
coaster?
Whew, I mean, power to them. That's tough.
Yeah, that's a different ball game in of
Right. Yeah.
itself,
Definitely
for
give
sure.
yourself some grace because it's going to be rough. But I
Sure,
think, you know,
sure.
a lot of it is the same. The emotion work is first. And then for anxiety,
Hmm.
anxiety is, it's not an emotion, but it's a state. It's a state of being,
Mm,
right? And so
okay.
what anxiety is it's a fear of the unknown and feeling
Hmm.
out of control. And so, any way that you can give children a sense of more control is going to help with that. And also, just being collaborative with them to create plans of around what is causing anxiety. So, if they're having
Sure.
anxiety about sleep, let's say, you
Mm-hmm.
help them make a step by step guide of what are they going to do if they wake up in the middle of the
Hmm.
night, or what rituals are you going to do at night to help you get to sleep. And so any kind of way you could plan for the future or plan around the unknown is going to decrease anxiety.
Nice. So that also that kind of leads into routine.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like routine, even though right now, what your routine months ago is completely out the window, but maybe developing a smaller routine or some kind of routine together where it might be just one or two things. Would that be helpful? Something like
Absolutely.
that?
Humans are definitely creatures of habit,
Hmm.
because it's comforting. We know what to expect. So,
Sure.
any way that you can make things predictable, especially in
Hmm.
this time that
Hmm.
is very unpredictable.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
any way
absolutely.
you can create something that the child is looking forward to or knows that that's going to happen each day, that can be very comforting.
Hmm. Nice. Okay. So I like that. That sounds really helpful, not just again for children or your teenagers, but just overall. I think that's probably an important lesson for adults
Hmm.
too. If you set the expectations so that you will it's something that's known, right? It's not, well, man, what am I going to get up and do today?
Right.
Or oh, yeah, it kind of sets the expectation for maybe the next hour or the first part of the morning, something like
Hmm.
that. Does that sound something that's reasonable?
Absolutely.
Or and would you, when we're talking about routine, and we might have some listeners who are saying, "Look, I'm doing good to get
Hmm.
out of bed,"
Yeah.
and and sometimes that's the best you can do. So be okay with that. But would you suggest that creating the smaller goals and a smaller routine throughout the day, would that be helpful as opposed to trying to plan out the entire day?
Yes, I do think so. And also, I just want to mention that we often view
Sure.
self care as like a bubble bath or like getting your nails done, right? Like a one time thing that you do that's nice for
Sure.
yourself. But but self care
Absolutely.
really is a routine and it's a practice that you have to build up to. So setting little goals in your day can look like starting tomorrow. I'm going to set aside 2 minutes to just sit quietly and take some deep breaths. Or I'm going to write
Mm,
down 3 things that I'm grateful for every night. Like that, it's that small. But that makes a
nice.
huge day in your a huge difference in your day. And there's a lot of studies out there that say even 2 minutes a day of mindfulness can really impact your mindset for the better.
I love that. That is an excellent tip. Thank you for that. Oh man, that's really good. So just to recap with that, what we're kind of saying is that you don't have to set these large goals that become almost overwhelming, right? To achieve. It's just the little steps that get you to get you out of the state of anxiety,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Okay, good. And then once you're kind of out of the state of anxiety, the brain can then return to, I guess, normal function, if you will, and then that's when you can start to undress what the emotional needs might be. Is that kind of
Yeah,
accurate to
I
say?
mean, anxiety is something you have to manage long term. And so,
Okay.
at least within this time of where that we're in a situation that's causing a lot of anxiety, right? So as long as this kind of
Sure.
stuff is going on, this is going to be something you're going to have to
Hmm.
manage, and that's so managing anxiety. Once you feel don't feel anxious anymore, you can't just totally ditch your coping skills. Yeah, you
You
can't.
practice.
You
Right,
got to
right,
maintain
right.
it. And so
Yes. 'Cause every day might be
absolutely.
different. So,
Yeah. So yeah, but once you do get it under control, it opens up, you're
hmm
right, a totally different spectrum of emotions. Hmm.
hmm Good. I'd like to ask you something about this too. I know that you've taken part in Girls
Hmm.
on the Run as one of the
Yes.
coach. Is that right?
Hmm.
A coach. Okay. Um, kind of talk about what you've shared with the group that you have coached. Have you used any of these tools along with other
Hmm.
empowerment tools? But what have you touch
Sure.
on that
So
if you
Girls
can?
on the Run is a really great program. They're all over the nation. So, definitely
Hmm
if you haven't ever heard of them, check them out. Yeah,
it is
yeah, they're
amazing too.
really
I
great.
agree. It's
Yeah, and
definitely
so
amazing.
their
Yes.
whole focus is building confidence in women and just helping them become more well-rounded students as far as
hmm
being able to manage their emotions, have healthy
hmm
relationships, things like that. And I started coaching this
hmm
before this pandemic came on, but the lessons have really shown to be invaluable during this time. We talk a lot
Absolutely.
about emotions and how to manage them, and also in
hmm
conjunction with how you can serve your community during this time. So
Mm.
included in the coaching is encouraging the girls to reach out to each other and do something nice for each other and do something nice for their
Mm.
community. And those types of things can be very healing and can actually help you manage your own anxiety. When you're helping others, it can be very
hmm
fulfilling.
It gives you that sense of purpose that you're part of something that's greater
Yes.
than
And
yourself.
sometimes we need to get out of our own heads sometimes. Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's fantastic work. Um, so I guess kind of wrapping up maybe what is or maybe we should do if you have like 5 tips that you could give for dealing
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
stress and anxiety. If you have 5 tips, what would they be?
Number one, I would definitely say to parents that it's not your job to completely eliminate your child's feelings. I think as parents, sometimes we
Hmm
want to take the discomfort away from our children. We don't want them to feel scared or anxious or any of these uncomfortable feelings. But your job is not to do that for
hmm
them. They have to have those emotions because that's a human experience. Your job is just to help them
Sure.
manage it. So I feel like that can almost take some weight off your chest a little bit. Like you don't have to eliminate that for them.
That Yeah, that's a great tip. I will definitely and just for your listeners, I will definitely post the tips. I'll write the tips as well. But yeah, that is probably one of the
Yeah,
best tips for
absolutely. It
parents.
takes a load off.
Sure.
And number two, also for parents, I think you have to give yourself some grace in this time. And it's okay when you
hmm
mess up. Like you're going to yell at your kid, or you're going to, have your own emotional meltdown in front of your children. That's okay. But the beauty about
Sure.
being a parent is you can then circle back and you can apologize, and you can model for your kid how to fix a relationship,
Yes.
how to apologize, how to do better in the future, and how to manage emotions. Like you get to be a model in real time for them. And so it's okay to be flawed, because that's more realistic and going to allow for more learning opportunities for your child. So I think
that is fantastic. Yes, I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head there. Being able to be real in front of your kids and with your kids, and also right now in real time. Absolutely.
Yeah. And number 3, I would say, as mentioned before, just really make emotion language the norm in your family, whether that's around the dinner table, asking everyone how they feel, or right before bed, or in the morning. It's really important to talk about emotions, because it's an experience that we all have, and is very normal. And so if your kid is feeling an emotion and hasn't had an opportunity to share, that can be very isolating and lonely. So you want to make
So you want to make sure you give them that safe space.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say, is that your priority should be to make your home a safe place to feel emotions.
Love it. That's definitely important. Okay. That was number 3 or 4. I don't remember now.
Number 3.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 4,
Okay.
I would say, is just keep reaching out to people and stay connected with others, and keep your children connected as much as you can. We are physically distancing, but that doesn't mean that we have to social distance. Humans are social creatures, and so that's very important. And then lastly, I would just say that now's a great time to start building your mindfulness and self-care routine. Like I said, it can just be 2 minutes a day to start out with. But now's the time.
Gotcha. I will, for our listeners, I will actually, if anyone needs, tips or helps on just how to actually be mindful, I will post a link about that as well, along with the podcast. So, what's one message for one thing that you want the listeners to come away with from today's episode?
I just really hope that this experience that we're all going through as a society really opens up a door for mental health improvement and mental wellness. I think that more people are having conversations about mental health, and I think that's wonderful. It's been so stigmatized for so long. And so I hope that this is an opportunity that everyone takes to look at inside themselves in a non-judgmental way, and be able to just step back and say, yeah, I'm struggling through this, and I need help, and there are so many places to get help, and that's okay, and that we're all going to grow through this together, and it's a time to give yourself some grace and some space to grow.
I love it. That is perfect. Give yourself some grace to grow, and this is opening a door to acknowledge the challenges of mental health, and actually being able to accept that mental health is important. So that's good. And Amanda, I really appreciate you being on today's podcast. Those were some really, really great tips. I think our listeners will really find the parenting tips helpful, and even if you apply one of them, even finding out how to do self-care, is important. So, yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And, maybe we'll have
Thanks
you
for
on for
having me.
another podcast. Absolutely. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. We will see you next time. Make sure you tune in to liveallgood.com. Thank you.